Warning. What you are about to watch is a true story. The following program contains content that some viewers may find disturbing. Viewer discretion is strongly advised.
What makes a person believe something they could not possibly know? Why does certainty grow loudest in the exact places where evidence is thinnest? And when a group of young men travel to an island together, and only one never comes home, what is it inside us that demands a villain before it will accept a fact? 6 weeks after Nolan Wells died off the Mississippi coast, those questions have stopped being philosophical. 3 people now face federal charges over threats tied to this case. A sitting county judge was targeted. So were witnesses. So was Nolan's own family. And almost none of the people sending those messages have heard what you are about to hear. The emergency call from that afternoon is real, released by Mississippi authorities, and I have it. The on-camera interview with the young men who were on that boat is real, and I have watched every minute. The letters between the prosecutor's office and the family's lawyers are real, and each carries a date. Rumor has had 6 weeks to travel. The record has barely been read. Tonight I am putting all of it in one place, in order. If you want the documented version of this story, rather than the version trending on your feed, take 1 second to like this video and subscribe to Crime Watch Hub. Everything ahead is sourced. Nothing ahead is invented.
Bombshell tonight in the Nolan Wells investigation. Tonight, the timeline seemingly blows up. This as Nolan's mother is investigated. Why? And tonight, possibly even more important, where is Nolan's phone? Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us. We want the truth about what happened to Nolan Wells.
A Bertram boat was seen leaving shortly afterward at a high rate of speed. Pretty certain Nolan Wells was part of a group that was, quote, almost fighting around 5 p.m.
I'm on the side of finding out why everybody got back to the mainland except Nolan Wells.
I don't think they've cooperated at all. They do not have Nolan's phone. They haven't had access to Nolan's phone. The Jackson County Sheriff's Department has it. So how can you say that there's text missing or there's photographs missing? Our boys had no reason to do anything with Nolan's phone other than give it back to Christine and her friends later that night. So anything about missing text messages or Snapchats is completely false.
Big question. That is Tyler Cox representing the so-called friends of Nolan on Horn Island. And if he's claiming that no one see the phone, how does he know that something's not missing? So that's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Let's hear that one more time from our friend Dan Abrams.
I don't think they've cooperated at all. They do not have Nolan's phone. They haven't had access to Nolan's phone. The Jackson County Sheriff's Department has it. So how can you say that there's text missing or there's photographs missing? Our boys had no reason to do anything with Nolan's phone other than give it back to Christine and her friends later that night. So anything about missing text messages or Snapchats is completely false.
That's a veteran trial lawyer. That is Tyler Cox. He's representing the young men that were on the boat that took Nolan to Horn Island and came back without Nolan, according to them. Joining me in all-star panel, I'm not saying Cox is right or wrong, but what I am saying out to Brandon Tatum. Tatum, former police officer, Tucson, star of The Officer Tatum on YouTube. He has interviewed Nolan's acquaintances that were on the boat that day. Officer Tatum, thank you for being with us. Let me talk about this one moment. We've got so much to get to. I'm going to try to be brief. Tyler Cox stating, I don't think they cooperated at all. I think he's talking about Nolan's family. They, I guess, the sheriff's office haven't had access to Nolan's phone. Well, can't they subpoena that? It's called a subpoena ducis tecum. You're familiar with those. You've testified in court. A subpoena ducis tecum is, we hear about subpoenas for testimony. I've been subpoenaed. Yes, go to court and tell the truth. A subpoena ducis tecum is for an item, an object, a document. The sheriff can give out a subpoena ducis tecum or get a warrant for an object. So, you don't have it? Fine, get it. Next. So, how can you say, I'm quoting, how can you say there's no text message or photo, as a text message or photos missing? Our boys had no reason to do anything with Nolan's phone other than give it back. So seeing anything about missing texts or Snapchats completely false. Well, according to the mom, Officer Tatum, she says that there was nothing sent out while Nolan was at Horn Island, which she found very odd. I have no reason to disbelieve her. So how can you say there were missing or there weren't missing? I don't think you can say it either way. Why don't they just get a search warrant and go get the phone? You know what? Forget all that. Officer Tatum, where is Nolan's phone? Do authorities have it?
Well, from my understanding, authorities do not have it, and the family have not been cooperating with authorities to give the phone over. According to the testimony or written statement from the lawyer that represents the family, the Nolan Wells family, he had made mention that he's prepared to cooperate, but they have not cooperated yet, which is very interesting to me. You want to find out what happened to your son. You would think you will be doing everything you can to cooperate. I can't judge her. I don't know what's in their mind, but it just seems to be very off-putting for them not to at least give the phone over and do what exactly they told the world they were going to do, and that is to allow a forensic extraction of his phone. Therefore, the world can see if there is things that have been deleted. I think Tyler Cox is very clear about what he's saying, that the boys had nothing to do with it. So if there's anything missing from the phone, it had nothing to do with them. Now, I'll add this. When you look at what Christine said.
Brandon, whoa, I'm going to go right back to what you're saying, but you're saying a lot, and I want to address each thing so we don't leave anything out. Number one, you just stated that, basically. Correct me, you can paraphrase this any way you want to. It looks really bad for Nolan's family not to hand over the phone. Do you have any independent knowledge they have not handed over the phone?
According to their lawyer that wrote a statement, and the statement was, we're prepared to cooperate, but that was as of the 11th. Therefore, they have not cooperated. Tyler Cox has made mention that he don't believe they cooperated whatsoever. He don't believe they cooperated whatsoever as well. So
extrapolating. You're taking their words, Tatum, that their words that they're prepared to cooperate to mean they haven't handed over the phone. Isn't that true?
I'm putting everything together, right? We have Tyler Cox that's coming out and saying that he has no indication whatsoever they've cooperated. The family has not come out and said that there's any findings. And then also the attorney that represents the family is saying that we haven't sent or gave the phone over, but we're willing to. And that was as of the 11th.
No,
so it appears that there's no indication that.
Brandon, you may very well be a lot smarter than me, but I can hear. Okay. The statement was, we're prepared to cooperate, I guess from Crump. That does
I'm not
not
sure
mean
if it was.
We have not handed over the phone, but we will.
Well, Nancy, when you put it all, you have to put the totality of circumstance together. I'm not there to be in the room with the investigators to determine, but I'm just going off of what knowledge we have and that's been given to us that's available. And what Tyler Cox is saying, and I'm taking him at his word, he's saying that there's no indication that they've cooperated. The lawyers that represent the family is saying we're prepared, but they did not say that they've cooperated whatsoever. So I'm looking at the statements that are produced, and all of the statements indicate that there has not been a cooperation with the phone being extracted from investigators. Therefore, there is no true determination that things were missing from the phone. Well, we have no other. We have no other. We have nothing else to go off of.
Prepared to cooperate. For all I know, that means we'll come in for questioning. We'll let you search his belongings. It
Nancy,
can mean anything that does not equal. We have not handed over the phone. But hey, you know what?
Nancy, it's been weeks.
You say tomato, I say tomato, because it kind of doesn't matter, and I'll tell you why it doesn't matter. Actually, I'll let an expert tell us why it doesn't matter. To Heather Barnhart joining us, digital forensics expert with Celebrite. We learned all about Celebrite during the Alex Murdaugh trial. That's how we got everything off of his dead, murdered son's phone. And the SANS Institute, SANS. She is one of the preeminent digital forensic experts in the country. She helped crack the Brian Kohberger case, and she is co-author of Practical Mobile Forensics, now in its 4th edition. That means that many people have used it. Heather, thank you for being with us. If the phone, I don't care where it is. Okay, actually, I do care where it is. I want to know that it's been handed over. I don't have to have the phone to know what's on the phone if it's in the cloud. It looks like an iPhone to me. So my argument with Officer Tatum is academic. It doesn't matter if I can get it from the cloud. So Nolan's phone missing. So what? I can download it. I can get it.
Data will exist in the cloud if he's syncing to iCloud and third-party applications. However, having physical access to the phone is where the databases exist that will have the truth on deletion. So you really need to get a full file system extraction of his phone as quickly as possible. So if it's not handed over to authorities now, it needs to be, because this was over a month ago now.
Do you have to have the phone to do the extraction? What about the cloud?
Cloud data is different, and there's a lot of information there. There could be unique information in the cloud that's been removed from the phone, if anything was removed, but it's best to have both cloud and the phone to paint the entire pattern of behavior and to see the truth.
Heather Barnhart, please don't move. Back to Officer Tatum joining us. Tatum, obviously, we want the phone. I think you can download it from the cloud, but she's the expert. She's saying it would help to have the phone. So don't you understand why? And I'm not saying this is true. I don't know that it's true. I don't know that CETO call is real or fake. I don't know. It's murky. You know, Tatum, when I would try cases, especially complicated cases, I would start out the trial with a big jar full of water and silt. And I had it sitting big on my counsel table, day one, right beside my Bible. And in closing arguments, the first thing I would do when I started closing arguments, I'd take that jar and shake it. And it would get very murky. You couldn't see anything. And I'd sit it down on my counsel table and argument would commence. And by the time I had gone through all the evidence, I'd go over to my table, pick it up and say, see, it's not muddy anymore. It's crystal clear what happened. My point is, we don't know. So all the haters attacking you, attacking me, attacking the cops, attacking the friends, attacking Nolan's mother, for Pete's sake. We don't know. It's unjustified. Now, to my question. Don't you understand why people are suspicious? Because Nolan's separated from his phone, which no teen does. I get it. Why he didn't have it in the water. I get that. I dive, I swim. I just went swimming with the dolphins with my twins. And yes, my phone was on the boat. But then I got it. I didn't let the boat take off without it. So at least you can admit that's why people are curious. I'm curious.
Nancy, I think it's because people are out putting out misinformation and they don't have the totality of circumstances because they haven't heard from the boys, didn't watch the interview and all of this stuff, and they feel that it's convoluted. It's very straightforward to me and very clear in many areas that the boys are saying they did not have access. Christine, Nolan's mother, is not saying unequivocally that things were deleted. She was surprised that things were not present. Therefore, she insinuated that things may have been deleted. But she did not really say that the phone was deleted. And the fact that they did not communicate with both sides, meaning that I wish that the Nolan Wells family would have communicated with these boys instead of me, would have talked to their lawyers instead of me, then therefore they could have gotten a good perspective. The boys made mention in the interview that I did with them that they told Christine, Nolan's mother, that they had his phone and his keys in their possession. Therefore, she came to get them. They turned them over. They have no access to his codes. They have no reason to delete his phone. They're claiming there's nothing that was deleted. They gave a fair explanation as to why he left the phone on the boat. Nolan wasn't the only individual to leave the phone on the boat. He wasn't the only black person to leave the phone on the boat. So that, to me, dispels the racial component. He was with them. Multiple boats came out. Traditionally, if you don't leave on a boat you came on, you can leave on another boat. They're all going to the same location. So it's not that bizarre that he left his phone. The phone was returned to Nolan. These are best friends of Nolan. They hang out almost every day.
Hold on just a sec.
He spent the night over their house.
Everything you're saying, but now we're getting to another topic. I hear you, but Tatum, the boat. Has the boat been searched by cadaver dogs and scent dogs?
The boat, from my understanding, has not been searched, and the cadaver dogs were made available for Benjamin Crump to utilize them to do a search on the boat. They refused.
No. Crump is not supposed to use the dogs.
There is no reason to search
everything on Crump.
Listen, Nancy, there's no reason if there's not any evidence of a murder, there's no reason for them to use the cadaver dog. That's how this works.
True.
There's none of these individuals they do not have any expectation that there was any murder that occurred. It's just other people are putting that out to the world. The police department is not investigating the murder. These boys are not suspects.
I agree, they're not suspects. They're not persons of interest. They're not suspects. They haven't been charged. But
to believe after interviewing 60 people that he was ever on the boat.
The search of the Triton,
He's not
his boat.
Ordering it. He's not ordering it. The cadaver dogs were made available if he wanted to. No, they availed themselves to him and said, would you like us to search the boat for you?
You just said that about Nolan Wells' mom. Now you said, I almost hate to do this to you. Almost. Tatum, you just said when Crump says we're available and ready, you meant, well, that's no, they haven't handed over the boat. But now you're saying the friends say our boat's available and ready, and I'm not going to tear you a new one because the law enforcement is the one that needs to go and search the boat.
Nancy,
it ain't rocket science.
The people who had questions about this, because it's definitely not the law enforcement, it was Benjamin Crump. They wanted to get to the bottom. They don't trust law enforcement.
There's not a grand jury? This isn't going to grand jury?
I'm saying initially before grand jury.
Because if it's going to grand jury, then there are questions.
Initially before grand jury, when this first started, and Benjamin Crump brought up all of these questions, and they availed themselves to him and said, would you like for us to search the boat? We'll grant the cadaver dogs for you to go and look at the boat. And he refused. And this is why I'm saying it does not appear.
Give authority to search the boat.
The boys are cooperating.
I want you to run over to Tatum's house and sniff the hell out of it. Because
I would say, come on over. I would say, no. I said, come on over. The cadaver dogs are made available. But then Benjamin Crump said, well, we don't want it. That's the problem here.
Wait a minute.
They are not pursuing like they claim they are.
Say, here's our boat. Come search it. Did the families offer the boat up to search?
They offered boat, phones, whatever investigators needed, whatever the family needed, they made it available. The family did not pursue any avenue to connect with the boys on any level. The boat, to talk about timeline, to communicate with parents, to communicate with lawyers, they have done nothing. And then now we find out that they haven't even given the phone over to law enforcement so they can do an extraction or a forensic investigation.
Well, stop.
That they can see.
You know what? I respect you, but I'm going to have to cut your mic because we have to be clear about something. Hold on. Philip Dubé joining me. He is a veteran trial lawyer, a defense lawyer. He's joining me out of L.A. He practices criminal and constitutional law. Dubé, I don't want to hear either a prosecution or a defense side. A citizen cannot force a search on somebody else's boat. So Crump or Mrs. or Nolan's mother, they cannot force a cadaver dog or a scent dog search on the Triton. Law enforcement needs to bring out a cadaver dog and a scent dog. It's just real simple. It's not hard. Do you agree? They are the ones with authority to do that.
Of course. A lot of these thought leaders and crusaders, the thought leaders and the crusaders can all request it and make sure that there's an in-depth, thorough investigation, but they cannot physically and personally initiate it or enforce all the procedures that are necessary to get that underway. One thing they can do, though, is go to the DA's office and ask that it be included as part of the grand jury investigation. Because believe me, Nancy, a grand jury starts investigating and wants all of these materials, including access to the boat, access to the cell phone, it's going to happen. Otherwise, they will suffer the pains of contempt of the grand jury.
Dubé, my point is, Crump, nor Nolan's mother, nor anybody on their team can issue a subpoena or a directive or give permission for somebody else's boat to be searched. So when that was put to Crump, he doesn't have the authority to do that. He's a lawyer. He knows that. And it's not the friend's prerogative either. It's law enforcement needs to go do it.
Correct.
I can't come search your home. That would be trespass.
Correct.
Law enforcement has to do it. That's a yes, no. I don't need a legal discourse. Yes or no. This phone is. The family may have it, or it may have been seized or handed over to law enforcement. And if it hasn't, then they, law enforcement, need to issue a warrant for it. It's really not hard. You've executed warrants before, I'm sure. So have I.
Well, you're going to have a reason to get a warrant. And if it's a criminal investigation and they believe that they can find evidence of a crime, if they had access to his phone, I could see them getting a warrant to extract his phone outside of the parent's will. But if you're looking at a potential drowning and there is no criminal element involved, and the parents are refusing to give over the phone, they don't believe it's any material evidence there. No, I'm saying this is what the law enforcement agency.
These questions anymore.
Nancy,
I'm
this is
not
what the law
saying
enforcement.
they're
I'm giving you a law
refusing
enforcement perspective.
Nobody said Nolan. You know what? We're really chasing our tails here. We don't know that Nolan's family has refused to hand over the phone. My simple question to you is, law enforcement, if they want the phone, get a warrant for the phone. Go get the phone. Or
Nancy,
communicate to the family, give me the phone.
Nancy, there could be two things afoot. I'm not a part of the investigation, but I can see if they haven't gotten the phone yet, it's because they don't need the phone and they don't want the phone. It's not there of evidentiary value if there is no suspect here. If it was a drowning and there's indications of a drowning, they may not need it, Nancy, so they're not going to go get it. If they need it, they would have already had it a month ago.
Stop. Okay. Brandon Tatum, are you a medical examiner?
No, I'm not.
Okay, because what I have been told, and correct me if I'm wrong, don't smile at me. It's not working.
I'm trying.
From what I understand, let's go to the expert. Joe Scott Morgan is joining me, Joseph Scott Morgan, Professor of Forensics, Jacksonville State University, world-class criminal program, author of Blood Beneath My Feet on YouTube, star of a hit series, Body Bags with Joe Scott Morgan, death investigator, over 10,000 death investigations under his belt. Joe Scott, it's my understanding, correct me if you know differently, or Susan Hendricks, Dave Mack, jump in, please, feet first. Both medical examiners have stated to the effect, one says, undetermined now, because we're waiting on, I think, toxicology. We don't know the answer. The second one has said, undetermined cause of death. That's a yes, no. Isn't that true? We don't have a cause of death yet.
That has been made public, no. They said
Okay,
last week.
so
Hang
Brandon
on.
Tatum,
They said last week.
excuse-
They said last week that the autopsy report is complete, which means they have tox, histo, and they've probably got a cause of death.
Okay, but we don't have the cause of death.
We don't. It has not been released yet.
And the second examiner said undetermined.
Yeah, because he didn't have any organs to examine.
Exactly. Officer Tatum, you keep saying it was a drowning. I have responded, are you a medical examiner? You said no. So, how do you know what happened other than what you've been told? I don't know what happened.
Nancy,
I don't know if he was hit on the head. I don't know if he got drunk and drowned. I don't know. So how do you know?
I have to push back on you on this. I did not say it was a drowning. I gave you two options. I said the police could be investigating a crime, and if they're investigating a crime and they have suspects and they need evidence, they will extract the phone with a search warrant against the family's will. If they do not believe that they're investigating a crime that's been committed and it is a drowning, according to them, they may not need the phone, so they're not gonna do a warrant to extract the phone against the family's will. So that's all I'm saying, Nancy. I did not say I know for a fact whichever way it went. I really don't know, and nobody knows
saying
except
it's
for the
a
people that are
drowning.
investigating.
I heard you.
No. I just made mention that they may be investigating it as a drowning. The initial findings, or at least the initial report that came out. Are you going to make mommy
do a playback? Am I going to have to do a playback?
Nancy, I did not say that it was a drowning. I said that they could have investigated as a drowning or as a suspect involved in a murder, and that's why they would do certain things and not do others.
My point is, Tatum, we don't know the answer, and this is an investigation to find out what happened. And when you have an investigation, you subpoena documents, items, testimony. There's a grand jury set. That means there is an investigation. You know what a grand jury is, right? They investigate. They have two tasks. One, as an investigation arm. Two, as a charging arm. In both cases, they gather evidence. If they find out this was an accidental drowning, so be it. If they find out he had help getting drowned, so be it. Our point here, and with this, I think you agree, is not to harm anyone's reputation, bury somebody unwarrantedly, name the wrong person. I'm not naming anybody. I want to know what happened to Nolan. I don't understand why so many people are upset about that. And speaking of drowning, I'm actually glad you brought that up, Tatum. To Joe Scott Morgan, death investigator, it could be that he did drown, but that does not rule out foul play. It doesn't rule it in. It doesn't rule it out. Explain.
Yeah, you're correct. I mean, drowning, just so you understand, if somebody, say for instance, has a head injury, right, and they fall into a body of water, all right, that can lead to drowning, right? Because they might still be unconscious but capable of breathing. And of course, if you're in a water environment, you're going to be taking on water. I've worked cases where water has actually been weaponized as a means to take someone's life. But I've also worked, Nancy, a lot of cases involving accidental drownings where people fall over the side of boats. I've even had homeless guys that have passed out face down in mud puddles and have drowned. You never can predict, how any of this is going to happen. All we can do in the morgue, the medical legal community, is assess what we see at that moment in time. When we're trying to look at the lungs, we're trying to look actually at the inner ear. That's one of the areas that we go to with drowning. And we try to assess the brain as well, because you can have the brain begin to swell in these certain circumstances. So there is a huge recipe that goes into this when you're trying to do a fatal diagnosis here. When you're trying to come up and make this assessment, you want to do it necessarily. I think it's best you try to do this independent of maybe what the police are saying, what friends are saying. You objectively look at the science of what's before you, and then after that, you go back in and factor in some of the circumstantial information.
You're seeing video given to us by Officer Tatum's show, Look at all the people out there. Speaking of witnesses, Joe Scott, you dead on. Thanks, Tatum. Because you know what? Somebody saw something, somebody knows something, and they are not coughing it up. And we're going to keep on until they do. Now, speaking of the friends, as you call them, I have no reason to believe them or disbelieve them. This is what you told me earlier. Back to Officer Tatum, star of The Officer Tatum on YouTube. Have the friends taken polygraphs?
Well, from my understanding, all but I believe one took a polygraph, and from what was told to me, that they all passed. And all of the ones that took a polygraph took one without a lawyer. And they cooperated with law enforcement. So from my understanding, everybody took a polygraph test. Why do you say that's
from what you understand? Did they tell you they took a poly and passed?
Yes, ma'am. They told me that they did it. I wasn't there. So that's what I'm saying from my understanding. They told me that all the boys except one, which is Warren, I believe, took a polygraph test. All of them did not have lawyers and did it and cooperated with police. Warren also cooperated with police. I just believe he didn't take a lie detector test, but Warren is the young man that I interviewed. So according to what they told me, they all took a lie detector test and passed. And it's an equivalent of a lie detector test. It's not a traditional lie detector test, but it's the same theology of trying to get to if a person is lying. I don't know the name of it. It's an equivalent of a lie detector test. It's a different methodology. I don't believe it was a polygraph test. I believe they took other stressors in order to analyze if the people were telling the truth or not. So then the answer to did they take a polygraph would be no. Officer Tatum, number one, they did not take polys. Number two, Warren, as you refer to him, did not take the voice analysis. Why did he not take a voice analysis? Number one. And number two, since we spoke on this last, have they taken polys? And if not, why not? Okay, let me just make sure clear, because I think the internet went in a frenzy about this. It's a computer voice stress analysis is what I was referring to. None of this is admissible in court, and I don't think it has the weight to concern anybody or whether or not anyone took it or not. I just thought it was important to show the cooperation that they had with the police. Even more cooperation, I believe, almost than the Nolan family. I mean, the boys have given their phones over to the FBI voluntarily, and we still haven't gotten Nolan's phone from the family to the police. So, are you back on the phone? Because you don't know. You've already said you don't know where the phone is. It could be sitting on the sheriff's desk for all I know. If they did it in the last 10 minutes, maybe that could be true. Oh, so you knew before you joined us tonight that Nolan's family had not handed over the phone? Well, I have no information to believe it was handed over. The last report from their attorneys that they hadn't handed it over. So that was your, quote, understanding, just like you had an understanding that they took a poly and then clarified they did not take a poly. Okay, they have not taken a poly. You don't know why Warren hasn't taken a test. And a computer stress test is a voice analysis. It's not the same as a poly. You also, I asked you earlier, are you a medical examiner? And you stated no. I know you're a star on YouTube. I know you have a huge following. I know you're highly popular. I know you're a former police officer. Are you a Juris Doctor? Are you a lawyer? No, I'm not. I've worked with lawyers. Okay, because polygraphs are admissible in court. Bam! Providing, well, Nancy, I have providing both parties stipulate ahead of time that they will be allowed. I don't care if you've never heard of it. Nancy is not going to. I don't know of a trial that has happened, from our understanding in recent time, that somebody put a polygraph before a jury and it was effective. I mean, there is a lot of flaws in the polygraph test. Have you ever heard of, let's see, what was his name? A control room. Oh, yeah, O.J. Simpson. Well, that was a long time ago. I'm saying in the civil trial and showed he was a big fat liar. Well, what I'm saying is there has not been significant usage of polygraphs in the court of law because there's too many flaws. Even as a police officer, we don't even use polygraphs anymore. Most police departments use the computer voice stress analysis. And neither one of them,
That's not true.
I would trust. Most police departments do not use the polygraph test anymore. They're moved towards the computer stress analysis. My head of security, when he went to the police department, they used the computer stress analysis. And it's not even foolproof. I mean, I would not trust somebody to use
All
that
I asked
for
you is,
anybody's
did they take a polygraph? You know, in the famous words of the Bard, Shakespeare,
Nancy,
we think that does test too much. All I said was, did they take a poly? And the answer is no.
They took a voice stress analysis.
Morgan, explain to Tatum why a voice stress analysis is not the same as a poly. It analyzes your voice. A poly does your heartbeat, your rhythm, your perspiration, your blood pressure, whether you're sweating, your eye blinking, the whole kit and caboodle.
I can address why it's certainly not admissible. Either one of these are not admissible and in criminal court. Okay. And that they
Pause
have no
right there. Hold on. Before you take one more step, are you a lawyer and nobody told me? Go ahead, get mad. I don't care. You're not a lawyer. Dubé, you are a lawyer. Dubé, isn't it true that if both parties stipulate ahead of time in a criminal case, which practically never happens, but if they do, that poly is allowed in court?
If the judge deems it relevant. It still has to meet the relevance.
So then, yes, don't go off on me. The answer is yes. We both know the law. It's a yes.
It's a yes. It's a hell.
Okay. So there you go, Morgan and Tatum. I hope you have learned something tonight. That said, Joe Scott, as much as I respect you as a death investigator, don't give me the law. Don't. I'll go to Dubé for that.
I'll give you forensic science. I'll give you forensic science, and I will tell you why neither one of these tests are. Yeah, okay, because they're not quantifiable. If you look at the Fry test, if you look at the Dauber test,
okay, never mind.
You cannot. No.
Stop.
Listen.
Do I need to Google it? Because I will.
No, I'm trying to give you.
Just
I'm trying
read
to give
it.
you some
Okay,
truth here
stop.
that has utility.
I asked you
Nancy.
the difference in a voice analysis and a poly. That's the question. Let me refresh your recollection. Do you know the difference?
No, I don't want to know the difference because it has no utility.
Okay, fine. That's all you had to say.
In a criminal
I'll tell you
case.
the difference. Okay. They are admissible if stipulated. A polygraph measures all sorts of data on your body. It is much more reliable than a voice analysis. For all I know, these friends took a voice analysis because it was readily available. I don't know why they did that over a poly. There could be an innocent explanation. They didn't have to do anything, but they did. They did do something, or at least most of them did. That's the question. I want to know, has the boat been searched? I want to know where the phone is. I want to know, have they taken a poly? Is that asking so much? To Tanya Jordan joining us, and Officer Tatum, please jump in if you have a question. If you want to contradict something, I want to know. I want to know the truth. To Tanya Jordan, she's Chief Parent Officer at BARC Parental Control. She's the author of Parenting in a Tech World. To Tanya, we were speaking to Heather Barnhart earlier tonight. Could you explain how a snap disappears and whether it can be grabbed back out of the cloud? Same thing with DMs, same thing with text messages, photos. A lot of teens think because they hit delete, it's gone. It's not.
It's not. And with regards to Snap, if you send a photo or video and the other person hasn't opened it yet, it sits live on Snap's server for up to 30 days. Same with unread texts. Now, if law enforcement sends Snapchat a valid legal request before the message is deleted, Snapchat will freeze that data and hand it over. But if the message was already deleted before the police asked for it, Snapchat apparently cannot retrieve it.
Isn't it true, Tanya Jordan, that modern technology can prove whether you have deleted anything? There is a digital trail showing if you have deleted photos, text messages, videos, all of that.
Absolutely. So many people don't even realize that on Apple phones, when they go to delete a photo, there's a whole folder in there called deleted photos where they live for at least another 30 days. Your digital trail is so hard to erase. It's why tech experts like myself tell you when you have old tech that you're no longer using, don't immediately recycle it. Don't throw it away. You've got to give it a water bath to fry every component inside of it, because you can dig up a digital trail very easily, and nothing disappears when you're dealing with technical aspects.
And so to you, Tatum, star of The Officer Tatum, we can find out if the friends are telling the truth. It's not going to be hard. They may be telling the truth. We didn't delete anything. That may be true. So it's a digital investigation, and frankly, it's not hard to do. The friends, who I believe now are your friends, after your extensive interviews with them, may be completely exonerated on that. Now, my question to you is, you're stating that the friends, I'm talking about the young man on the Triton, that the friends have handed over their phones.
Yes, ma'am. They've handed on their phones to the FBI voluntarily.
I find that very commendable, because do you know how hard it is to get people to hand over a phone? That's why you have to issue a search warrant or a ducus tecum. So they have handed over their phones voluntarily.
Yes, ma'am. According to the lawyer and according to what they told me, they said they handed over to the FBI voluntarily. And the sad part is that I wish that Nolan's phone could be evaluated, because there have been claims that had not been substantiated. And I believe that the claims should have never gone out in the public unless they were substantiated, that there was a potential that things were deleted from his phone, which put these young boys in a bad position unnecessarily. It's not fair to say that you're throwing out that things were deleted,
it's not.
But obviously mom can't determine if they were deleted because she couldn't do a forensic investigation on the phone. So she really don't know, which I'm not
Unless
knocking
she
her as her
looked in
baby.
the deleted file and found things.
Well, she within Nancy,
the deleted file and found things, and we don't know that.
And she would have told.
I agree with you. I
But
think
Nancy, she
got
would have
me
told the
wrong. I think
world.
you got it backwards, Tatum. Nobody.
She would have told the world if she would have found. She would have told the world, Nancy, if she would have found certain things that were actually deleted. She would have come out. I'm sure Benjamin Crump would have come out, and I would commend her to come out and encourage her to. If she saw that a picture of Nolan was deleted, a text from Nolan was deleted specifically talking about or inferencing certain things. If any of those things had happened, I would guarantee it should be criminal if they would not turn it over to law enforcement, so law enforcement can evaluate the phone and see if there were individuals communicating or deleting communication, because that is a crime. We just seen that happen in Texas, where young boys, there's a young man that drowned, they go and delete stuff off his phone, throw his clothes in the water, and they were arrested for tampering with evidence. And so if there had been deletions on the phone, even if there hadn't been a determination that anyone had murdered Nolan, tampering with evidence or deleting evidence, potential evidence, is a crime. And so the fact that the family, from my understanding and what the lawyers have said, that they haven't given this information over to law enforcement for them to evaluate, it's very troubling to me.
Okay, again, for the millionth time, you don't know they haven't, and I don't know that they have. But what you're saying about tampering with evidence is absolutely true. But I have no reason to believe that Nolan Wells' family has tampered with evidence. That said, I think you've got things backwards. I do not want to convict or hang an innocent person. All I want to know is what happened. And I haven't even gotten to the CETO call. Is it real? Is it fake? I'd like somebody, i.e. you, if you have the original, to put it out there. But that's it. Whoa, don't go off on that. Susan Hendricks joining us. Susan Hendricks is a veteran investigative journalist. She's the author of the bestseller Down the Hill, My Descent into the Double Murder in Delphi. She exhaustively researched and investigated the double murder of 2 little girls and came to the truth. Susan Hendricks, you've heard all of the evidence that we've got tonight, and there's so much more we haven't gotten to. I want to hear where things stand now. Is there a grand jury? Is there going to be a grand jury? Where is the phone? Was the boat searched? Just enlighten me in any way that you can, Susan Hendricks.
There is a grand jury. They are investigating. You mentioned Delphi. There's hints of this to me, meaning it's being tried in the court of public opinion. And it's troubling to me that we talk about the mom and we don't know that she didn't hand over the phone. So now she has to go on defense. And as Officer Tatum said, the boat has not been searched by cadaver dogs. So we know that. Grand jury is investigating, and the parents have to suffer through this. And also, all attorneys have to say is, I don't think it's my understanding that she didn't hand over the phone. She wants to know what happened to her son. She wants to know, why wouldn't she hand over the phone? It's just obscene that she has to suffer through this even more.
Well, you hit the nail on the head right there, and you answered a very serious and critical question, and that is, there is a grand jury. Everything Tatum is saying and everything I'm saying, you know that phrase in the Bible, Tatum? We are now looking through a mirror darkly. We're looking through a very murky, grimy glass because we don't know. You are saying one thing, I'm questioning that because we don't know. And in the middle of it all, we have got a dead body of Nolan Wells. I don't want to get tangled up in arguments and vitriol that detracts from finding the truth. And I don't take anybody at face value. I don't suspect anybody, and I suspect everybody. I can't tell who's telling the truth. But we will, God help us, find out what happened to this young man. If you know, or you think you know anything.
What makes a person believe something they could not possibly know? Why does certainty grow loudest in the exact places where evidence is thinnest? And when a group of young men travel to an island together, and only one never comes home, what is it inside us that demands a villain before it will accept a fact? 6 weeks after Nolan Wells died off the Mississippi coast, those questions have stopped being philosophical. 3 people now face federal charges over threats tied to this case. A sitting county judge was targeted. So were witnesses. So was Nolan's own family. And almost none of the people sending those messages have heard what you are about to hear. The emergency call from that afternoon is real, released by Mississippi authorities, and I have it. The on-camera interview with the young men who were on that boat is real, and I have watched every minute. The letters between the prosecutor's office and the family's lawyers are real, and each carries a date. Rumor has had 6 weeks to travel. The record has barely been read. Tonight I am putting all of it in one place, in order. If you want the documented version of this story, rather than the version trending on your feed, take 1 second to like this video and subscribe to Crime Watch Hub. Everything ahead is sourced. Nothing ahead is invented. Start with the object at the center of all of it. A telephone. Nolan left his handset on the boat that day. He was not the only person aboard who did. When the group returned to the mainland, they told his mother They had his device and his keys, and on the 10th of July, she collected them. What she says happened next is the spark for everything since. She looked at his social media from the day he vanished and found nothing. No photographs, no video. The absence disturbed her, she said, because her son documented everything he did. Notice her exact position, because it is constantly misquoted. She did not announce that files had been erased. She described a silence where she expected noise, and drew an inference from it. The response from the other side has been blunt. An attorney for the young men argues publicly that nobody can claim anything vanished, because nobody has forensically opened that phone. Not the sheriff's department. Not anyone. His clients, he says, had no reason to touch it beyond handing it back the same night. And there is the trap that has swallowed this entire conversation. If no examination has occurred, that argument cuts both ways. Nobody can prove data disappeared. Nobody can prove it did not. 6 weeks of accusation built on a machine that has never been switched on. A digital forensic specialist who has worked some of the most scrutinized cases in the country explained why this is not a stalemate. Cloud storage holds a great deal, if an account was syncing. But the databases revealing the truth about deletion sit inside the device itself. A full file system extraction is the only procedure that settles it, and every week that passes makes that extraction less useful. So the argument is not really about guilt, it is about a clock. Now follow the dates, the closest thing to neutral ground this case has. On the 15th of July, Nolan's parents met the district attorney for the first time. Both sides agreed to a joint examination with independent experts present. No date was fixed. Late that month, the mother's legal team subpoenaed 6 major platforms for messages, images, location data, and timestamps. Consider what that means. A family accused of concealing information formally demanded that outside companies produce it. Then, on the 12th of August, the prosecutor's office wrote directing them to surrender the handset by 9 o'clock on the morning of the 14th, under 48 hours. The parents were out of state. Their attorney replied that the July agreement was for a supervised examination under an agreed protocol and chain of custody, not a handover across a counter, and asked for that protocol so a date could be set. As of the 14th of August, nothing had changed hands and nothing had been scheduled. Which brings us to the headline that has done more damage than any other. Nolan's mother, investigated. Here is what that actually was. A complaint filed anonymously with the Mississippi Board of Nursing about her professional conduct. Nothing to do with her son's death. Not criminal. The board is legally obliged to examine everything it receives, no matter who sends it. And it was closed. Her attorney called the filing an attempt to distract a grieving mother and pressure her into silence. An anonymous letter became a national rumor that a mother was under suspicion in the death of her own child. She was not, and she is not. The timeline has also been described as collapsing. What genuinely happened is narrower. On the 11th of August, a lawyer for the young men stated that independent witnesses placed Nolan alive on the island roughly 80 minutes after their boat departed. That came from counsel with an obvious interest in it holding. The witnesses have not been named. No investigating agency has confirmed it. Treating an assertion awaiting verification as a revelation is exactly how misinformation begins. Underneath all of it sits the fact that dwarfs everything else. Nobody outside the investigation knows how Nolan Wells died. The state examination was completed at the end of July and sealed pending grand jury review, which the prosecutor has explained is routine there, for any death that is not natural. The independent examination reached no conclusion, partly because the state had retained the internal neck structures for testing, leaving the second pathologist unable to rule possibilities in or out. The young men have not been charged. They are not suspects, nor persons of interest. His mother is not a suspect. No cause of death has been made public. Everyone shouting has been shouting into a sealed envelope. In part 2, I will take you inside what those recordings contain, minute by minute, and show you the 90-minute window every theory in this case is quietly built on top of. If you want it the moment it lands, subscribe to Crime Watch Hub and turn on notifications, because this story is moving faster than the people covering it. Why does the human mind refuse to tolerate a gap? Why is it that we can accept almost any answer more easily than no answer at all? And when a story has a hole in the middle of it, what makes us so certain that whatever we imagine filling that hole is better than admitting we cannot see inside? There is a hole in the middle of the Nolan Wells case. It is roughly 90 minutes long. Every theory you have encountered about that afternoon, every accusation, every defense, every viral thread, all of it is constructed on top of a window that nobody has publicly filled. Tonight I am going to walk you through that 4th of July hour by hour, using only what is documented, and I am going to show you precisely where the record stops and where guesswork takes over. Most coverage blurs that line. This one will not. If you want the version with the seams visible, like this video, and subscribe to Crime Watch Hub. The morning is not in dispute. At 9:56, a boat leaves a private dock at Ocean Springs. At 11:14, it reaches Horn Island, a barrier island roughly 10 miles offshore, uninhabited, federal land, reachable only by water. Around 7 people are aboard. It is a holiday. Multiple vessels are out there. The last widely reported sighting of Nolan comes at approximately 3 o'clock. An independent analysis of circulating footage places a legible phone clock at around 3:23, which is not the same as a confirmed sighting, but it does tell you people were filming. Then comes 4 o'clock, and the recording everyone should have heard before forming an opinion. A teenager aboard calls a private marine towing company. His words are on the released audio. He tells them they are at the west tip of Horn, that the bilge pump has stopped working, that they are sinking, and asks them to please come. He says it is coming up. He says they are going down. The dispatcher describes what she is hearing as a bunch of kids. Here is the part that almost never gets repeated. Help never arrived from that company, because it was no longer needed. The vessel's owner advised them to stand down. Another boat had already assisted. A retired federal agent who reviewed that audio publicly said he heard nothing sinister in it, describing a group managing a sinking boat. The family, separately, retained audio engineers to examine the recording independently. Their attorney framed it plainly. They are not casting aspersions. They want the truth. Around 4:27, that same footage analysis places a second legible clock. And at 4:31, the boat leaves Horn Island without Nolan Wells aboard. That timestamp is the hinge of this entire case. Now we enter the part where the documented record thins, and the internet gets loud. So listen closely to how I say the next section, because the framing is the point. 2 vivid details have circulated relentlessly. One describes a boat departing around 5 o'clock at speed. The other describes a group nearly coming to blows around the same time. You have almost certainly encountered both, presented as evidence. Neither comes from investigators. Both were gathered from social media posts and compiled into a privately produced timeline analysis, a document that states on its own face that it is not a law enforcement finding. The vessel in the first claim has never been identified. The second rests on 2 accounts that contradict each other, with one commenter disputing who was even present. Whether Nolan had any involvement is unconfirmed. That is not evidence. That is unverified material, wearing the costume of evidence. There is a further claim, made publicly in August by an attorney representing the young men, that independent witnesses place Nolan alive on the island roughly 80 minutes after the boat departed. Those witnesses have not been named. No investigating agency has confirmed the account. It comes from counsel with an obvious stake in it holding. It may prove accurate. It has not been tested. Back to the documented spine. At 5:52, the boat enters Fort Bayou. At 6:06, it is back at the dock. Then something happens that is difficult to sit with. Nearly 5 hours pass. It is not until roughly 11 at night that the Coast Guard is contacted by a friend. At 11:07, one of the young men telephones Nolan's mother. At 11:49, she reports her son missing to state marine authorities. The friend's explanation for the whole afternoon is consistent and has never changed. They say Nolan chose to stay behind, intending to return on another vessel, and that with multiple boats out there, this was unremarkable. They note he was not the only person aboard who left a phone behind. Nolan's parents have disputed that account from the beginning. Both positions have been public since July. The following morning at 8, a search begins involving multiple agencies. During that search, an internal email from State Marine Resources recorded that witnesses described Nolan as having been drinking heavily. Understand exactly what that document is. It is preliminary information gathered by people trying to find someone alive. It is not toxicology, it is not a finding, and it has never been presented as one. On the morning of the 6th of July, at 8:45, a National Park Service ranger finds a body at the northwestern tip of Horn Island. So return to the window, 3 o'clock to 4:31, 90 minutes on an island, in daylight, with witnesses present, on a holiday, with phones out and cameras recording. Somebody knows what happened inside it. Possibly several people do, without realizing the significance of what they saw. The sheriff's office has interviewed more than 60 witnesses and continues to ask anyone who was out there to come forward, however small the detail seems. And until that window is filled by evidence rather than assumption, the honest position holds. No cause of death has been released. No one has been charged. The young men are not suspects and not persons of interest. Nolan's mother is not a suspect. 90 minutes. That is the whole case. Everything else is people talking around a silence. Subscribe to Crime Watch Hub and turn on notifications. When the grand jury reports, when that phone is opened, or when those witnesses are confirmed, you will get it here, sourced, dated, and separated from the noise.